if you were given a choice between power, money, and knowledge, what would you choose? Most likely you have already made that choice without knowing it. In fact, I believe that we lead our lives based on that choice. And I've always said, I think most consequences of what we experience are the result of the choices that we make. And some of these choices might not be conscious, might be unconscious, but they are the product of the consequences that we face. Welcome to the new RJ webinar series. This is part of a series of webinars that I decided to do to make the concept and the practices of restorative justice more accessible to people. And today we're just following up the last webinar, which was on the issue of power, race relations and restorative justice. And I want to go back to revisiting the concept of power today. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do. There is a little icon. It helps the charity that is hosting these seminars. It's the charity that I set up some time ago, and it's called the Restorative Justice for All International Institute. Do sign up, and if you want to get notified when we have a new video, just press the bell button, the corner. We're trying to also translate these videos, so some of them are actually already translated. I'm just trying to do our bit and help get the RJ word out there. So yeah, as I said, so this seminar is going to be about power, and I want to unpack the concept of power. There's a lot of stuff on power, and you know, if you're watching these as a researcher or an academic, or as a student, or just anyone trying to understand the concept of power, and may have read stuff or heard about stuff, Foucault and all sorts of authors writing about it. So there's a lot in the literature. There's probably other YouTube videos on power. What I want to do is to try and give you my understanding of power, and this is part of a project that I've been trying to do with the help of many people from around the world, and it's titled Power, Race and Restoration. It's actually going to end up in a book next year, published by Routledge. And I asked many practitioners and people from around the world to just give me case studies that they experienced power and how that power was rebalanced, not through top-down approaches like the criminal justice system or somebody who has kind of a structured way of managing power, but through bottom-up approaches and dialogue. And this is one of the approaches that I would say restorative justice is part of. And I think we cannot understand restorative justice or be able to resolve conflict if we don't understand the concept of power. And I think this concept is central for resolving conflicts, but also for preventing conflict. It's all about what we have inside. So that is why you won't be surprised to hear that unlike many people who translate power in kind of different ways, in a negative, in a positive way, and there are many definitions. If you just Google power, you will get a lot of definitions, and these definitions might be the kind of power between individuals, power between institutions, power between states. Then you go kind of the peace movement and looking at different geographical levels between, power between communities and communities fighting between each other and exercising their powers, or at different geographical levels. There's also how you perceive power. So it's kind of the realistic approach. The realists will look at power and international relations, for example, and just say, we exercise it through military force, or, colonialism or financial control and all these sort of things. Nietzsche wrote a lot about it. Well, I want to move away from all those sort of things because, they're already out there. And what I want to do is try and be a little bit provocative, as I always do, and challenge you, because power is, in my view, is something that everybody has, and I have, and you have. And when we accept that and we put it on the table and we say, look, it's something that we all have, and it's a tool that can also be good and bad, then I think we are at a better position to start understanding how we resolve conflict. And I know it's uncomfortable to put power on the table in this way, because it's going to start revealing a lot of things about us and accepting a lot of things about us, whether, you know, it's your power that you have just exercised between yourself and your son or your daughter, or as an employer with your employee, or, you know, as a man towards a female, or it doesn't matter. It's just something that will make us uncomfortable, and feeling uncomfortable is a good start, because power has a crucial element in it if we are going to exercise it in a positive way, and that is responsibility. So we can't take responsibility for something that we don't actually acknowledge and something that we have. And that's why it's a very important starting point to say that you and I have power. And then we can then understand how the misuse of power leads to inequality and the abuse of human rights, and why so many efforts have been made from around the world, especially after the Second World War, to structure systems, we call them, I don't know, human rights conventions, United Nations, to minimize the impact of negative power. You know, when we are not able to acknowledge, or when we do acknowledge it, exercise it consciously and create dominance over an individual, over a community, over a state. So I am aware that as you unpack this idea in your head, and as we progress with these seminars, and I will put different links about papers that we're publishing in the book, it's going to make you feel uncomfortable, but be proud of feeling uncomfortable. And we can try, as people who work in, I don't know, NGOs, human rights organizations, as researchers, as somebody who believes that we can make a better world, and we can try and do that. But if we don't balance the power within and accept it, then I don't think we're going to go that far. And it's about understanding that. So this is what I want us to focus on, and just what I just said just makes me happy that I'm bringing this awareness to you. So the second point about power is that is I think is everywhere. So it's not just between people. It's about, it's just in the universe. It's between your space and my space. And it's how we use this power to impose and force or exercise influence and dominance over each other for one reason or another that really matters. It's not easy to be in a position to understand that when you are doing some sort of harm to somebody, whether that relates to, let's say, their property or their identity or their physical presence or their mental presence or whatever it is, to be conscious at the same time that I'm actually exercising power now, or I am trying to minimize their power, and understand why you're doing it. Is not. I understand that it's not an easy thing, and that we're human. Human beings are by default meant to exercise that subconsciously and not consciously. It's how awakened you are as a person to be able to watch yourself as like a third person, watching yourself doing what you're doing and kind of saying, God, I'm doing that, I can't stop, but when I finish, I actually need to reflect on it. The next stage, if you are powerful enough with your watching, is that you can stop it while you're doing it and just say, oops, I just need to stop now, because I'm watching myself and I don't like it. That's power, and that's positive power. I also want to connect it with with the equality world, and race equality, disability, gender, age, sexual orientation, and all this sort of kind of different strands of equality that we have created, and they have their value, especially when it comes to legislation and kind of streamlining the different kinds of protections. But they can also be, I think, used in a negative way, and this is where I'm conscious that some people might just jump the gun and kind of start accusing that I'm not pro-racial equality or whatever it is. And the book that places a lot of emphasis on race equality. What I think we can achieve in a much holistic way is when we look at power, not to look at it from an equality perspective. but look at it from the consequences of exercising power in a kind of holistic way that doesn't streamline it. And I know that some people might say, but how about all those, deaths and fights that we have won to say that we're in a better place for race equality? But we don't need to lose all that. In fact, I think by looking at, let's say, the issue of power as an issue that racializes all, and I have a chapter that just says, the power that racializes us all, so we're all kind of under the same boat, if you like, is that it brings, first of all, that unity and that responsibility without taking away the importance of acknowledging somebody's characteristics and protecting those characteristics by creating a cohesive approach to managing power without shifting the focus. And I think that's what's been done to actually distract the minimization of the power that certain people hold or certain institutions hold, and they don't want their power to be diminished. The next webinar is going to be about what I identify to be like the three levers that institutions and powerful individuals use to control power within us, the power that we all have as individuals or as communities. And then the follow-up seminar again is going to be on power, but I want to look at it from kind of almost like an extreme example, and that follows from like a little project I've been doing within this project, looking at pedophilia, and an interview and an interaction I had with a pedophile who talks about power and how I think the power that you have and I have and he has and that the system has could be better used to address that topic. And I think it's with shocking examples that we kind of wake up and start thinking about things in a different way. And let's not forget about restorative justice. It was brought back in the 1970s using quite extreme examples. Everybody was talking, that we're going to replace the criminal justice system. We had the so-called movement of abolitionists, and then we kind of gradually started toning down these claims, and we started evaluating and look at restorative justice and what it can do. And we said, it's not just about replacing, or it's not about replacing, it's actually about complementing, it's about improving, it's about giving victims and offenders another option, about giving communities a voice, and also is about balancing power. It's within that ethos, if you like, of restorative justice and human rights that I want to place the concept of power and control. If you are in that position, and if you can see yourself be powerful enough to put your understanding and your intellect, but also your practice, how you manage conflict, and it doesn't matter whether that's criminal or personal or whatever you call it, within this concept, then I think you'll be interested in the follow-up seminars to come. Thanks for watching this short webinar. As I said, the next one is going to be about what I think are the three key levers of controlling the power that we have within us. Do sign up so that you know when the next webinar is coming up. And please give feedback. There is also the notification button if you want to be notified, and put your email address and just get an email. And do check the other webinars that came before this one, including what is restorative justice, and also other topics that we have covered in relation to gender-based violence and mental health. Stay safe, thanks for watching.